Welcome, friends, to this rally called by Calderdale Trades Council. My name's Dan Whittle. I'm chair of the local Trades Council, and we're here today to campaign for NHS dentistry, to launch a campaign locally and to join campaigns already taking place across the country to defend the state of NHS dentistry. We're doing this 2 weeks before the birthday of the NHS, the 5th of July, 1948. Our precious healthcare service was founded. That makes it 76 this year. Despite that, NHS dentistry is at its most perilous point in its history. Not my words, not the words of a radical political group, the words there of the normally quite placid Nuffield Trust. Nevertheless, there's a lot of work to be done to organise to defend NHS dentistry. How did we get to this point where it's in the worst state it's been in its history? In 1999, Tony Blair was promising easy access to NHS dentistry for all. Blair's government failed. Every government since then has failed. And we all know the terrible state that the nation's teeth are in now. We need a national checkup for the nation's dental health. So we're joined today by two outstanding speakers who we're very grateful for joining us. We're going to be joined first by Dr. Joe Hendren from the British Dental Association, and then by Dan Ross from the campaign group Toothless in England. First to get his teeth into the issue then, Dr. Hendren, round of applause, please.
Good morning. This is a wealthy 21st century nation with supposedly universal healthcare. So why are we seeing sites that belong in the Victorian era when it comes to our oral health? I've been practicing as a dentist for over 35 years in a predominantly NHS practice in Wakefield. I'm also a leading representative nationally and locally, and regularly meet with those people who commission NHS dentistry across West Yorkshire. But for far too long, Yorkshire has lived with a dental access crisis, where people are so desperate that they're willing to take matters into their own hands with a bottle of spirits and a pair of pliers, where the most common reason for hospital admissions for children is not tonsillitis, but tooth decay. I can assure you that the dental profession abhor this state of affairs, because none of this is inevitable. I wanted to be a dentist in order to provide the care and advice which people need. I expected to be able to do this under a system that was available to everybody, which was affordable. And if you had a problem, it would be sorted out that day, and if not, certainly the day after. However, we had a system imposed on us in 2006, which is financed only to cater for half of the population. A system which limits the amount of treatment a practice can provide. A system which is full of perverse incentives, making it that those people with the greatest need are the least welcome in an NHS dental practice. And the budget for dentistry has barely changed in a decade, which means savage real-term cuts, making the business of running a dental practice, which only provides NHS care, much more challenging. Practice running costs, including wages, the materials we use, the equipment we have to keep up to scratch and renew where necessary, are rising much faster than any increase the government are prepared to provide. So dentists are left with little choice. They deliver NHS care at a loss, or they use private work to subsidise the NHS care they're providing. And we are seeing the results of forcing health professionals to make impossible choices, and dedicated colleagues are walking away. This is so wrong. The BDA, British Dental Association, has been calling for changes since this contract was imposed. 3 Parliamentary Health Select Committee reports going back to 2009 have agreed that the NHS dental contract is not fit for purpose, but it's fallen on deaf ears. This country needs a service which allows those needing to visit a dentist to do so without having to travel far or pay exorbitant fees, where dentists are actually paid to provide prevention advice. a system that is fair for our patients and fair for those providing their care. But clearly, we can't have NHS dentistry without NHS dentists. So the NHS needs to be where the next generation of dentists choose to build a career. Because after 5 years at university, graduates are coming out with student loans of some £80,000 to £100,000 and do not relish the prospect of working in a broken system that won't let them practice what they were taught at dental school. And they certainly will not want to be shackled or forced to work in a broken system, which has been recently proposed. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. And following the general election, it's imperative that whoever forms the next government has NHS dentistry at the top of their agenda. This crisis is one of the top issues, both in the media and on the doorstep. Mere tweaks to a failed system won't cut it, which has been the policy of the last government, and we need real change. Patients need to know the government won't view their oral health as a nice thing to have or an optional extra. Dentists and their teams need to feel valued as part of the NHS family, to be allowed to make the difference they first envisaged when they signed their university application forms. But fixing dentistry isn't rocket science. It doesn't require reinventing the wheel. Experiments in new ways of delivering care have been tried and tested, but the government shelved them back in 2022 for reasons which suited them. This prevention-focused, patient-centred model of care was valued by both the patients and the dental teams alike. But the opposition came from the government accountants. There is no need to drag our heels here. We can move at pace, and we don't really have any other option, because the clock is ticking on NHS dentistry, and the longer we wait, the more dedicated colleagues will be forced out. But we do have reasons to be cheerful, because there are now votes to be won and lost on dentistry that may well offer the incentives we need. Because, as I said, access problems are not inevitable. They are the result of political choices. And a problem made in Westminster can be fixed if there's the political will. Locally, we're trying to make progress where we can. Access problems here predate COVID, and the local Integrated Care Board have confirmed their commitment to ensuring that NHS dentistry is top of their agenda. And they have confirmed the rolling out of urgent care centres where people can have their urgent needs dealt with and, where necessary, can have a course of treatment which can further stabilise their oral health and prevent the need for future toothache and infection. In order to access this, you need to do this through NHS 111, and you will be given a dentist, an NHS dentist, who will be able to get you out of your pain. Well, this is only possible because dentists are able to work under different rules than that of the national contract. The other initiatives that we are developing in West Yorkshire are being piloted, which seek to provide access to homeless people, asylum seekers, and the housebound. We're also exploring how we can extend the message of prevention in schools with toothbrushing advice by way of visits by dental teams, which also provide access for those children who need a dentist and haven't got one. We want to make this work for our patients. But in all honesty, these are mere sticking plasters, small steps, when saving NHS dentistry requires a giant leap. So we call on the next government to provide a real change that can give this service a future. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Joe. Really powerful speech. Makes clear just how much the campaign to save NHS dentistry is a broader question of the campaign for social justice, what you were saying about equitable access for all. Really appreciate you mentioning young people and future trainee dentists as well. I work at Sixth Form College just over the road there, so I've been working with a number of people who will in just the next couple of months be applying to study dentistry at university, and they have exactly the same concerns that you were saying out there. Really powerful and really appreciated, Joe. Thank you very much. Okay, next to give some political bite to this issue, we're going to take Dan Ross, who's from the campaign group Toothless in England. Dan, over to you.
This year, we celebrate 76 years since the establishment of the NHS.
When asked how they accomplished this feat, Aneurin Bevan remarked, by stuffing the doctors' mouths with gold. Today, we are witnessing something similar, as private health insurers, hedge fund managers, and rentier capitalists stuff with gold the mouths of ministers and shadow ministers alike. And the creeping privatization and monetization continues to roll back our most valued national asset. The need to fight for the NHS as we know it has never been more urgent and necessary. My name is Dan Ross, and I am privileged to be invited to this event today on behalf of Toothless in England, a campaign fighting for the preservation and extension of NHS dental care across Britain. But our campaign is more than that. It is deeply linked to the wider fight to defend the NHS. While government politicians impose austerity policies on working people to pay for foreign wars and obscene weapons of mass destruction, we must remember that austerity is a political choice to impoverish and to strip our public services. The so-called cost of living crisis is truly a cost of capitalism crisis, forcing millions of people to choose between heating and eating. Britain is the 6th largest economy in the world. And yet we are told that we cannot afford, amongst other things, free dentistry or even affordable dentistry. I have taken testimony from people who are forced to perform self-extractions due to both intolerable pain and the lack of available and affordable dental care. People are suffering from crippling physical and mental health consequences. As Joe said, the most common reason that children aged 5 to 9 are admitted to hospital is to have rotting teeth removed. It is absurd. It is monstrous. It is Dickensian. It is no exaggeration to say that the state of dentistry provision in this country is a public health crisis. A crisis affecting the NHS and beyond. The NHS dental contract that was introduced in 2006 under Tony Blair's New Labour government forced dentists to accept draconian new terms, creating intolerable demands on time and work for the same fixed fee. It was and is an untenable situation, forcing thousands of dentists away from providing NHS dental care. And let's be clear, dentists are not to blame for this. Dentists have to pay bills, they have to pay rent and mortgages, they have children to feed and clothe. Parties of every hue, whether Labour, the Liberal Conservative coalition, or the Tory government, have facilitated this steady decline. Toothless in England is grounded in its 6-point charter. An NHS dentist for everyone. Radical contract reform to make the NHS dental contract fit for purpose. Encouraging and incentivising dentists to provide NHS treatment. To fund 100% of the population. We demand revenue to cover the 50% of the population that are unfunded by the government. Free dental treatment for NHS dental care to be free at the point of use. An end to privatisation by stealth and indeed by any means, for people to be prioritised before shareholder dividends. And an end to the two-tier system. Preventative treatments, checkups, hygienists and therapists to be made core NHS functions. Community dental nurses can play a key role in reducing long-term oral health problems through delivery of educational and preventative care services to children and young people. The public's oral, general and mental health is suffering in the face of a dental crisis brought on by years of successive government neglect and underfunding. Increasing knowledge and understanding can lead to healthier lives, provide better outcomes for patients, the health service, and society overall. These demands are well within our gift and achievable with the proper political will. Yet, like every victory ever achieved by working people, we have to fight for it. With public support, public pressure, public demands, with coordination and organisation, we can make this a reality. Thank you.